Yo, what's good, guys? We are back on MLB The Show, wrapping up our tier list content with the usual best lineups in the game. I've been seeing some comments about should I bench this guy? Should I start this guy? What captain team should I run? Can you make a video about captain teams? That's kind of all addressed in these. I usually do them right after the tier list. And I go through what I think some of the top tier lineup options look like headed into the game if I was playing for money, if I was playing for like an all-time peak rank, if it was a game I really, really cared about, these would be the lineups I was running. So let's get into it. This is the durability team, right? We all know it. We all mostly love it. And it all centers around this guy, Cal Ripken. He is a little bit expensive at the moment. He's back up to around 200K, which is around his all-time peak. He was like 30K a while ago when the Flash Sale came out. I grabbed like 2, 3 of them. I'm trying to sell him back right now. So that's a big dub for the boys. What you're looking at is the team I've put around him, but honestly, there's so many good options. On first base, let me just get the camera out the way for you guys. So on first base, I like Jimmy Fox. Basically, a completely maxed out hitter with good defense at first base, and I like his swing. It is kind of a divisive swing in the community. Either you love it or you hate it. It's very much so kind of right-handed Babe Ruth, Lou Gehrig type swing, so I absolutely love it. We'll just go around the diamond. Subbing in for Cal Ripken, that's a question I get a lot of. No, the captain doesn't have to stay in the game for your team to retain that boost. They just have to start the game in the lineup, and then after that, you're free to pull them. So at second base, I think there's a ton of great options. The new Ketel Marte looks really good. The power against lefties is a little meh, and defensively, he probably won't be awesome, but that is one option. This J-Raw card can play second base. He is pretty gross as a second baseman, gives you about everything you would want out of a second baseman, other than just insane power. And then Glaber looks really good and gets a big fielding bump on this team, so I really like that for him. Other options include second base. Bo Bichette cannot play second base, believe it or not. He does make the team if you want to run him at shortstop for some reason, but he cannot play second. Royce Lewis would be a great pull to play at second base. You can see max out against righties, almost max out against lefties, lacks a little bit of power. Should be a more than adequate fielder at second base. Other than that, you've got you could probably play Jeter out of position. He might fumble some double plays, and then you have Tatis at second, who's always an option. So moving on to shortstop, I enjoy Marcus Semien. I've liked him all year. I enjoy his swing. It can be a little easy to get ate up if you're facing a righty with like an outlier sinker or something like that. But other than that, he typically performs very well. You can see this card is juiced to the moon on this team. Great speed. His previous card, I think, only had like 82 speed. This one has 90. He's going to play great defense. The only, red flag I see on the card is power against lefties is slightly lower than where you'd want it, but still good enough. And the arm isn't great as a shortstop. So he might give up some infield singles from time to time, but other than that, should be pretty gross. Third base, I've got the new Corey Seager. You could play him at short if you want to, but his speeds kind of limit the amount of balls up the middle he can get to, those balls behind the third baseman that he can get to. So I think he profiles better as a third baseman or even a second baseman if you have somebody you prefer at third base over him. Absolutely gross. You can see basically a maxed out hitter other than power against lefties, and actually is a good fielder. So we'll go to our DH. Juan Soto's here, but really whoever you guys hit well with. This Juan card hit awesome for me in the few online games I used him. I used him in the Inside the Mind for last season. He was awesome. So if I was going to run this team, I would probably be running Juan Soto. Catcher, I have Carlos Santana here. If you have the new Adley Rutschman, if you took him or if you bought him for $1 million, then congrats. You have the only pure catcher option for the durability team at the moment. Carlos is great there. Jimmy Fox is great there if you have a first baseman that you prefer over him. So moving into our outfield, Griffey's here. You can see we finally got him super fractured. Absolutely gross in-game card. Definitely was worth the extreme grind when it came out. Would I be doing it nowadays? I don't know. But absolutely gross in-game card. Completely maxed out stats. Basically a maxed out fielder. He is absolutely gross. Center field, I don't think there's too many other choices other than this Mike Trout. This is possibly one of the best Trout cards we've ever gotten. The only thing weighing him down is kind of the relative power level of the cards with him. He's no like live series Mike Trout from last year or the collection reward one, but just pure stat wise, probably the best Trout we've ever got. Absolutely gross card. And then right field, the new Ronald Acuna, very similar to Trout in that regard. Probably the best Ronald Acuna we've ever got, and probably ever will get, because this card is absolutely gross. So I don't think there's too much debate in the outfield. I think there's some other options. You can see the new J-Rod or the monthly J-Rod could play in the outfield for you. Tatis could play. If you really like Billy Williams, he could play a corner spot, but he's probably better in that DH role. Cattell also can slide into the outfield for you if you have a second baseman you like more. Miggy I'd stay away from, probably more as a DH or first baseman. And then that is about it for the outfield. So that completes the durability team. I think it's really awesome. The only guy I didn't really give a shout to that I wanted to is Pete Alonso. This card's super slept on. Free card. You get him for doing, I think, a third of team affinity, maybe even not that much. So he's super great on this team if you're balling on a budget. Really like him there. So moving on, we'll do our pitching rotation last because every team's obviously going to have the same rotation. This is the shortstop team, right? This is the other captain that has kind of risen above all the others this year. So we'll go in the same order. Starting at first, this is the most limited spot on this team. You don't have a lot of options that fit the team build. But the shortstop team only requires 11 members, where I think Cal Ripken requires 13. So you have a little more flexibility if you want with this team. So Ernie is at first base. Your only other real options, I believe, are like Paul Molitor, Mike Schmidt. Lourdes isn't bad. Jake Cronenworth's not bad for a free card, but just not really cards you're trying to run if you're in a competitive environment. Second base, subbing in for Jimmy Rollins. There's so many good options. If you have probably the most, ludicrously expensive for no reason card in the game, Ozzy Albies looks gross here. He looks absolutely gross. This is what his stats probably should have been by default for the amount of cards and stubs you had to sink into him. But here he is. He looks absolutely gross at second base. Would probably be my pick. But there's some other good options. Marcus Semien, again, makes this team not quite as good as he is on the other team, but he's somewhat close, and you can see he's even faster. So Ellie also makes this team. I believe this Ellie, still can play second base. Going to be the best defensive second baseman in the game just because of his frame alone. And you can see the contact numbers and the power numbers are very, very good. And we actually just got another addition. So, the other guy that I wanted to mention here is Oneil Cruz. This card's pretty gross, right? He's going to get ate up lefty-lefty a lot, but you see the wheel. You see how well he hits. He is a gross card. And honestly, if you run him and Ellie up the middle, I don't know how many hits you're going to be giving up the middle. It's not going to be a lot. So, moving on to shortstop. I like Lindor. The stats are a little underwhelming power-wise against righties and arm strength. He has a noodle arm. He's going to give up some of those infield singles from those like bend over and scoop throw animations. He just doesn't really have the arm strength to throw runners out in that regard. But he is still awesome. Has a great bat. If you want to play him more at second, it is understandable. Third base, the man himself, Corey Seager, stays here again. Might even be better just because he gets faster on this team. DH, you got a lot of great options. You got Oneil Cruz. You got Trevor Story, who I really like. You got B. Craw. This Jordan Lawler card I probably wouldn't run. I would probably run him at shortstop if you're attached to him like that. Trey Turner. Trey Turner's worth a mention. He looks gross on this team. I'll put him in so we can see the wheel. He is super nasty on this team. Really enjoy him. Matt McLean, good all around, pretty well-rounded card. Profile's better as an outfielder on this team if you don't have some of these top-tier outfield options. Bobby Witt. Bobby Witt's a great all-around card, especially if you want to run him at shortstop. Maybe swap him and Lindor. He's going to play a lot better defense. Really, you got a ton of great options. Gary Sheffield makes this team. He's already a maxed-out hitter. Why not get him a little better on defense, a little faster? He would profile great in right field if you don't have the big dogs out there. Paul DeYoung, not a terrible card. Tatis looks great. Marte also makes his team, worth mentioning. Willie Adames, underrated card. There's so many good options for the shortstop team. Glaber makes it. Bo makes it. Jeter makes it if you're still attached to Jeter like that. There's so many great options for that. Moving on to the outfield. That is the hardest thing about this team, is making a good outfield, because there's not many outfield players that have shortstop secondaries, and you kind of only get 2 open slots with this team, right? You need 11 shortstops. It means you get 2 open slots. You have to use them accordingly. With Diego being gone, there is no catcher that contributes to the boost, so you're kind of forced to use a slot there. And then I think the outfield's going to be one of your other, best options. So left field, I put Mookie. He's super gross. He's an awesome card. He would be basically maxed out on defense, but he is in his secondary position. So center field, I went with Jackson Chourio. I don't really mind his swing as much as some people have said they had. Obviously, profile's awesome for the shortstop team. Basically a max out contact guy, close to a max out power guy. Awesome speed, good reaction. The only thing lacking is a little bit of arm, but you can live without that in center field. And then right field, we use another one of our so-called wild card spots. We use it on Ronald Acuna. A cool thing about running the Jimmy Rollins captain that is worth mentioning is that you actually do get a proper wild card spot with this captain. So you see we can uncheck season 5, and you can put anybody that applies to this boost in this team. So my top end options obviously would be Chipper Jones. Chipper Jones would be one of the top options I could think of. Jose Ramirez would be awesome. If you wanted to use last season's Ellie, that would be an awesome card to use it on. There's a lot of good options. Having that wild card option because you're using Jimmy Rollins instead of Cal Ripken is nasty, and Chipper Jones on the shortstop team is gross. Anyway, other than Acuna in the outfield, basically you're looking at Gary Sheffield. You're looking at the Seiya card, which is super solid. And then you're looking at not running somebody that makes the boost. So, you have your regular top-of-the-line guys like Griffey, like Trout. That new Matt Holliday isn't terrible. Nolan Jones is a personal favorite of mine. The list goes on. If you like J-Rod, I think he's up there. The new Bellinger is obviously super nasty. The new Brian Reynolds. All of those are very good, and they are great options for this team. So, moving on to my final one, and what I'll probably be running this season. And it's just called the God Squad because I think that's kind of the way the game is at the moment. I think, for me personally, the best lineup I can run is just running the best card at every position, in my opinion, anyway. I don't think you necessarily have to have the captain boost anymore. I think most of the cards have kind of caught up to an in-game, type power level to where you don't really need the +5 contact you're going to get. It's not like they're boosting power. It's not like they're boosting reaction or anything insane like that. The best you're going to get is a shortstop team boosting speed. So it's not the most vital thing in the world at the moment. First base. I think the best first baseman in the game is Cody Bellinger. This card is gross. I hit insanely well with the other one, and defensively, you're not going to get a better first baseman than him just because of how tall he is. He snags a ton of line drives. Other than him, Josh Bell's pretty good. I've heard good things about Jose Abreu. Adam Dunn wouldn't be the end of the world to run at first base. A lot of people are loving the new Freddie Freeman. Delgado, obviously, is still very good. Miggy's still good. Carlos Santana's still good. A lot of the cards you run on the other teams are good on this team. They just don't approach those exact same power levels. Napoli's great. The new Rafi Devers is great. I would probably rather run him at first base than at third base. Castellanos isn't bad. Schwarber isn't awful, but he is rough on defense. Anyway, that's just a few of the first basemen you can run. It would be whoever you would assume is the best in the game. And the cool thing about this is, obviously, you do get that one wild card spot, so you can't wild card a position of your choosing. So, second base, I'm going with Ozzy Albies. I paid for this card. I'm going to use him. Obviously, he makes a shortstop team. If he made the durability team, if Bellinger made the durability team, I would probably be running that team, but they do not, which is unfortunate. Shortstop, I'm going with Mookie Betts. I feel like shortstop is a very limited position right now. I feel like Jimmy Rollins is kind of meh. Bobby Witt's not good enough without the boost, in my opinion. Same for Lindor and Turner. Ellie, not really good enough without the boost. You can still run him. He'll still play awesome defense. But once you start to get to Hall of Fame, once you start to get to Legend, that PCI is going to be a little bit too small without putting some parallels on him and without running the shortstop boost. Bo Bichette is just too bad on defense for me. Not necessarily stat-wise, it wouldn't look like it, but he is insanely slow. He's going to struggle to get the balls up the middle. O'Neal Cruz is not bad. Really, shortstop's a very thin position in the game right now, which is why I went Mookie Betts. I think he's very well-rounded. You look at his will, he's an awesome shortstop. Should play gross defense. Third base, I think it's Seager. I don't think it's close. Really, all you're gaining by running him on one of those captains' team is 6 contact against lefties. That's not the end of the world. Most people aren't going to notice it. DH, for me, it's Matt Carpenter. This card's gross. Absolutely love him. He's so good. Other than him, you got your Rio. You have your wild card spot you could run. You could run like a Chipper Jones type. Babe Ruth could make a reappearance now. Really anybody, right? Anybody you want, that wild card spot is free. I don't know if you want to use that on a DH necessarily, but it is free to use, basically. Catcher. For me, it's Jimmy Fox. I think the only other person really in the debate is the new Adley Rutschman. I don't love Santana. A lot of people love him. I've had, mixed results with him. This was on Legend, right? So, not the best stats, but also it's on Legend, so you kind of understand it. He slumped a little bit, got hot towards the end. Really not overwhelming stats. He didn't blow my socks off the way that somebody like, Jimmy Fox would. But I think the new Adley would be great. I enjoyed the other Adley, so I'm sure the new one's great too. Left field, Brian Reynolds. Look at the stats. Above average outfielder defensively, and then just absolutely nasty stats, and he's a switch hitter. I don't know why people are underrating this card. Like, he's not going to be that guy. He is going to be super gross. As a center fielder, I could see why people would ding him, but as a just corner outfielder, especially as a left fielder, which is his primary, I don't think there's too many better options in the game. He's basically like if Santander could play defense. Trout, no real debate there. You can see he's missing a couple contact because he's not on the durability team. Does it matter? No. Once I get him super fractured, he'll be missing a grand total of 3 contact from what he has on the durability team. Really not the end of the world. And then you can see Acuna is missing basically nothing also. So that is the God Squad. I think that's the best lineup. Some honorable mentions. Nolan Jones, like I said, he is so gross. He's so good. Santander, really awesome card. I got off to a slow start with him, but in this event, he's just been cruising. He's been crushing baseballs. I think Sheffield's good. If you like his swing, if you enjoy Sheffield cards, this is an awesome Sheffield card. The stats are just way too good for this card to suck. And then King Griffey, obviously always worth a mention. Does not look nearly as good as he does on the durability team, but he is still a top-tier option. This is what a lot of people have been waiting for, I would assume, starting pitching rotation. I think this Randy is debatably the best pitcher in the game right now. He is not the collection reward Randy. His bars are way bigger than that Randy. I don't know if it's the pitch control or the walks through 9. His hits and Ks are better than the other card, but he just doesn't have that same control that the collection Randy does. He's not automatic. He's not nearly as intimidating, I find. With that being said, he's still Randy Johnson, and he's still one of the best pitchers in the game. And if you guys invested at $400K, bang, there you go. Maybe you would want to sell soon. I don't know if we're going to get a good influx of pitching anytime soon. But maybe you make your ranked push and you're happy with where you end up at, and then you sell them and just sit on the stubs, because I think that other Randy will be back soon. Right, we have, 34 days, something like that. So he'll be back sooner than you know it. Corey Kluber, probably the 1B pitcher in the game right now. Super gross. Awesome control freak pitcher with a great pitch mix. And a slurve that is impossible to hit out for a home run for absolutely no reason. Great card here. Kerry Wood makes my rotation just because I feel like the pitching's kind of weak at the moment and I don't have some of the other top end options. I am going to mention them, but I do not have them or else they would be in the rotation. I think he's fine. If you can get him rolling, if you can get his confidence high early in the game, I think he's decent. Luzardo, I have not pitched with yet. Heard he's absolutely gross. Has an outlier sinker. Should be a stupid good card. Looking forward for him getting cards for the future, basically, years to come. And then Clayton Kershaw, just a rock, very solid. You can see I didn't use him much last season because I felt like the rotation was better. But I don't see anybody on my screen right now I would pitch over him. I don't see anybody on this screen I would pitch over him. Maybe Wainwright has an argument, but I'm kind of iffy on him. Merrill Kelly's pretty solid. Pablo's pretty solid if you just need like that fifth starter. Corbin Burns isn't the end of the world, although I will say his control leaves room for improvement. And then my other two pitchers, right? If I could construct my lineup the way I wanted to, I'm working on it. We're not quite there. Would be Kodai Senga here and Tariq Skubal here. I think would be the best rotation in the game. You get Skubal in and you get Senga in, and I think that's the best rotation you could be running right now. Bullpen, I'm happy with the bullpen. I like the bullpen the way it is. I would like some more dominant relievers. I don't feel like anybody in this bullpen is really super dominant. Zach Britton's pretty tough to hit lefty-lefty. You could almost call him dominant against lefties. Felix Bautista's pretty dominant against righties. Other than that, this bullpen lacks dominance. I feel like there's not a lot of people with put-away pitches in this bullpen, which is kind of the downfall of it. We need like an Aroldis Chapman type guy, a Mariano Rivera, these closers that are near unhittable, right? Unless you have a lot of reps against them. And Kenley used to be that guy, right? But everybody's gotten reps against him. Don't like him that much. Duran, I don't really love. They changed his arm slot since last year. But there's really not too much other competition. David Robertson isn't bad. Ryan Presley isn't bad. Bruzdar, do not run Bruzdar. Tyler Matzik isn't bad as a lefty specialist, but I really wish he had a changeup instead of a curveball, and then he'd be a lot better. The new Leclerc isn't bad, has 5 pitches, just kind of lacks, that stuff. Jake Diekman's not bad as a lefty specialist. I'd probably rather have Ottavino. Looking at it now, I'd probably rather have Ottavino, and this would be the bullpen going forward. I got a question in stream. How many lefties should I have in my bullpen? Typically, you want between 2 and 3. Right now, I'm doing 2 just because I feel like there's not really a dominant third. Some combination of this bullpen would probably be what I would call the best in the game. We've kind of been dealing with like budget guys for the last little bit because we haven't gotten strong releases of closers and relief pitchers recently. I think Diekman's worth a shout. Huskar is kind of decent. And Matt Strom's pretty decent. Rob Nin's pretty decent. Brooks Raley, great lefty specialist. If you just need a lefty specialist, he's free. He's in the Season XP path. He's very good. Just be careful on those lower ranks. He's not going to be nearly as good as he would be on like Legend or Hall of Fame. Other than that, that's about it. If you really like the way Billy Wagner plays, I've seen some people wild carding the other Billy Wagner. I wouldn't go that far. I would just use the collection one if you already have them. And then I think that's it. There's really not that many great reliever options. You can see I've grinded out Team Affinity. I've grinded a ton of stuff. And I think this is the best team you can put out there. If you have players you want to use on these captains teams at this point in the year, I think go for it. But you kind of need a reason to use these teams, right? Like if I really still wanted to use Griffey, if I hadn't gotten enough of Griffey this year and I really wanted to use him at his max potential, I would run this captain team. If Jimmy Fox sucked without the boost, I would run this captain team. If I really wanted to run Carlos Santana, I would run this captain team. Other than that, am I going to run durability team for anything? No. Shortstop team. This one's a little more nuanced because you get a wild card like Chipper Jones, who becomes a maxed out hitter and gets 5 speed with the shortstop boost. I like that a lot. But other than that, unless you're trying to use like Churrillo or this Ozzy Albies, right? If you told me to showcase this Ozzy Albies in all his glory and all his potential, I would bring him out on this team because look at the wheel. The wheel is absolutely gross. He was basically handcrafted for this team. If the card looked like this, he would have been worth it. If you liked Ellie last season, if you absolutely loved Ellie, that would be a reason to run this team. Basically, you kind of need a reason to run these, captains at this point, especially because of the price, right? I haven't shown the price. I showed the price on Cal. I have not showed the price on Jimmy Rollins. You can't even buy one at 500K right now. He is extinct at 500K. You probably would, if you wanted him right now, right this instant, you probably have to pay 700K for him. So, not really a budget option anymore. It's not a way to make budget cards better. It's a way to make top-of-the-line cards more dominant. And for me, I think I would rather just run the best card at every position at the moment. But if you guys do have those captains locked in already and you have some cards you want to use to their fullest potential, then I do understand that. Till next time, guys, this has been the best lineups in the game. If this was at all helpful for you guys, I would urge you to like and subscribe. Till next time, peace.